This video presentation is made possible by the SLO County Department of Education and the SLO Co-Arts Collaborative. For over a century, the Central Coast of California has been a haven for people from all walks of life. Pioneers, entrepreneurs, farmers, innovators, artists, dreamers. People escaping the city life to find beautiful landscapes, rich culture, seeking prosperity, and most importantly, joy. For a lot of us, we find joy in art, whether we're makers or just lucky enough to enjoy the art of others.
Hi, I'm Peter Henry Schroeder. I'm a local documentary filmmaker here in San Luis Obispo County. I invite you to come with me now as we actually get to go talk to some of these artists firsthand and learn about what makes them tick. What are some of the challenges they face, and how do they do this on a day-to-day basis? Where does their inspiration come from, and how do they actually find the joy in their art? What really gives them that creative juice?
Yes, I am Rod Baker, glass blowing artist. We do offhand glass blowing, which is with blowpipes and punties, as opposed to lamp working, which is done with a torch and is often referred to as glass blowing. I moved to Los Osos in 2000. It was a little spontaneous. We were living in Ventura and they were building around us, and it seemed like we needed to go further north, so we came here. We had a funky old camper and we camped over in the Morro Bay campground, and we saw Los Osos from across the bay, and we came over here and we bought a house and moved here. I was born in Santa Monica, California. Unfortunately though, born into a family of lawyers, and that was sort of the direction that I was encouraged to go in. I didn't really get to do art. I started by making leaded glass windows. I am a general contractor, so occasionally I would have customers that would want a window in a specific spot, and I could do that for them. So I was up here and I was making a window for my own house. And the only glass store that I could go to was in San Luis. And I was getting some glass, and they had these fusing kilns in there. And I was really fascinated by that. And so I got into her little class, and then I bought my own kilns and took it to my own level. I saw these little one-man glass blowing studios along the Oregon coast. And that sort of gave me the idea. There's a couple guys in Oregon that were really kind to me and talked to me and helped me out and encouraged me. I got lucky and got in. They used to have glass blowing at Cal Poly, and I got into that course, and that's where I was able to, for a reasonable expense, learn and see if I could even do it before I built this whole place. The skill of doing it was the main thing that I found so fascinating. And now that I can do these things, I'm a little bit stuck in a world of just production. So a lot of glass blowers draw in chalk on the floor what they're gonna make. And then you go and you make it. You can't just take like a piece of paper and start drawing, it happens now, and that's it. If you lose it, it's gone. You start with what you're going to want. Like, if I want to make this, I start with this in my mind. This is what I'm going to make. That's what we're making today. And I know all the little steps that it takes to do that. From first gather, second gather, color application, shaping. Okay, here we go. Solid punty rod as opposed to a blowpipe. These have no air, just solid glass. So you have to heat the end of the pipe or punty till it's glowing a little bit so the glass sticks to it nicely. So we have over here a pipe warmer, which is usually full of pipes, and they're getting hot on the end so that they look like that. I have a pot of molten glass in here, 2,000 degrees. A gather is when you dip into the hot molten pot of glass in the furnace and get some on the end of a pipe or a punty. First gather. That's the marvering table. So you like get your first gather, you come out of the furnace, you come over there, you give it a quick roll, make it nice and round and neat and tidy. So this is our second gather. Okay. So that's just about the way I want that. Now we have to let this set up a little bit so it's not so hot and it will stop moving. Here I have a square piece of glass that has dichroic glass embedded in it, fused into it, and it's sitting at about 1,020 degrees. So I can pick it up out of there and goes directly into the glory hole without it cracking. Now we're going to toast the end a little bit so it sticks real nice. There it is. So basically what I'm going to be doing is folding that back over the glass that I've already gathered, and then I'm going to gather over it one more time and make it round. So I'm just getting these little bits of black pulled back so they won't show up in the final piece. Now we have to just wait about a minute, let this set up, and I'm going to gather over it. Coming right at you. And then we transfer it. So this would be like a ball, blowpipe here. Punty gets stuck on here. You get a little glass on the end of a solid rod, stick it here, put a little water or chill this area a little bit, bonk it, it comes off. And now it's attached from the bottom. And then when it's all done, we have a knockoff table. And you tap the punty right where it joins the piece, and ideally, it just pops right off. That's it. So we have an annealing oven that we put our pieces into at the end of the day, and all during the day. And at the end, and it runs at about 950 degrees. So the glass is shaped and made, and it goes in there. It's probably going in there at like 1200, 1100 degrees. And then it cools down to 950. And then it just sits there as we make pieces all day long. And then at the end of the day, it goes on like about a 12-hour cooling cycle. Different speeds, slow at first, a little faster at the end. So it takes about 8 or 9 hours for this to cool back down to room temperature. I have a few chores to do here. I'm going to put a little bit of glass in the furnace for tomorrow. This is recycled from somebody else. Our glass is soda lime glass, and basically it's sand. It's silica sand and a couple other chemicals to do different things. And once that heats up, it turns into glass. In the Oregon dunes, if you're lucky, when lightning strikes the dunes, it creates a glass piece from the heat. It cooks it up into glass. They have them on display here and there. So our glass is a coefficient of 96, as opposed to bullseye glass is 90. Borosilica, which most pipes and other like torch worked items are made out of, it's like Corning ware. It's much more forgiving to heat. My glass has to stay 1200 degrees or more to stay stable. Once it cools, unless it cools slowly. These are fumed. So we use special glass that's a reducing glass, which means, try to see if I can get this in. Color is made from metal oxides. So you would take like cobalt and cobalt oxide and get it wet, mix it with the glass, and then the glass, when you melt it, turns blue. So when you reduce glass, you put a gas-rich flame to it, and it sucks out the color and leaves the metal, the oxide, okay? Then when you do that, then we have out there a barrel, and we use stannous chloride with a atomizer and air pressure. So this is all reduced, it's cooking really hot, it's on its punty, and it goes in there, foot pedal, psst, mists it with this nasty stuff, and that happens. Now, this is a 2-gather piece, okay? So on the second gather, I'll have what we call frit, which is crumbled colored glass, different sizes from like powder up to little pebbles. And every different size does different things. Like these little spots, bigger pebbles. This even more color, smaller frit. And that's basically how I do color. So those other ones, this is color rod. You could break off a little piece and pick that up and use it to blow with, or you can cut off a piece and smash it up and use it as frit. It makes it kind of so you get random sizes, which I like. This 0, like sand. And then it goes bigger and bigger and bigger. These, I have color rods that I break pieces off and I crush up, all different colors, and then I mix them together. And then that's something like this. Starts out with a little piece of yellow, get a little bubble in it. That's like your first gather, and then gather over that, and then apply the exterior color. And so you get a nice pastel color on the inside. It's a cool technique. So I'm going to put this up on the table and we'll look at this one. This is combed. It's called combing. So we have a metal frame that goes flat on the shelf that's lined with stuff so that the glass doesn't stick to it. These are all straight strips of glass, all lined up in that frame. It's heated up to 14, 15, 16, 50. And then I reach in there with a tool and I grab the glass and I pull it. Shut the kiln, let it reheat, do it again. All those times. And that's what happens. So color, glass, doesn't like mix. It'll stay separate, if you know what I mean. Well, this is Fusing World. So this is all fusible glass. We use System 96, like I said. And this is our clear. This is mostly for students. And you know, gosh, we have about 30 colors. You could use this in the piece we were just looking at, cut it into strips, line them up and cook them up. When you first start this, a lot of people will make a plate. So they'll cut a circle of color, a circle of clear. Most pieces are 2 sheets of glass. And then you can cut shapes. We have different saw options that you can cut things into whatever shapes you want. So that is dichroic glass. And it basically comes that way. So you just you get these, they come round, it has that pattern on it. You can get it backed with black glass, or you can get it on clear glass and then back it up with dark blue or black. It needs that to reflect back. If you fuse that on clear glass, you wouldn't like it. This is mostly scrap pieces of glass and a few marinis that I made, fused up into a plate. We call these flowers, but they call them different names at different places. Stars on the rock, that's something that's might be unique to me, possibly. I get cool rocks from different places I go and I make those. I take the rock and I have it there on my marver and I drop a couple gathers of glass with the blue in it for the base. I push the rock into that, okay? And then I take it off, it doesn't stick. And then that goes in the annealer, that's the base. And then I keep the rock there and I make a sea star and I get it nice and hot and I bring it over to the rock and I shape it to the rock. And then that goes in the annealer. And everything's like labeled. And then I put them together. They're glued together.
One of your more challenging pieces to make.
Probably those on the wall, the spinners.
You want to talk about one of those?
Those are, I try to get enough color to do 3 because they're supposed to be a grouping of 3. And that is blown. And you blow a bubble, you transfer it, and then instead of using jacks to open it up like we do with these, you use centrifugal force and you get it hot enough in the glory hole to where it's spinning and it starts to open up, and then I bring it out and whip it and they go open up, and then you can gauge how much you want them to, slump back. Those are fun. Those are really fun to do. So I was able to get into the Cal Poly glassblowing program when they had it, which is ideal. Glassblowing is really expensive. Like this shop of mine, I rent it to other glass blowers. It's $35 an hour, which is cheap. So if you don't know what you're doing, it's a waste. You have to learn how to, you saw me gather out of the furnace. That in itself is a whole skill, if you will. So each phase of that process that I went through in there, I've taken 15 years to perfect. For me to just stand there and guide you through the process over and over again, you probably couldn't afford that. But in the school situation where they give you a certain amount of time, you can experiment, and it's like, kind of like there's no money involved almost. I used to take one unit, which was a couple $100, and I got massive hours in the hot shop blowing. If you pay $35, $40 an hour, it's $250 a day. When you don't know anything about it, it's like you go, oh my God, there's so much here to learn and know. Because I went through that, but I read everything I could get my hands on, and there's some good material out there to help. It helps a lot. There's a particularly good book for beginners called Beginning Glassblowing, and it's by Edward Schmid, and it's all handwritten and illustrated. So it's kind of like a comic book in a way, and it's funny a little bit. And it's very informative. You learn the nomenclature of the tools and the equipment and basic, get it. It's work. It's not really easy. It has a certain physicality to it, which I like. A lot of people do. I think it's really good. I'm pretty old, and it sort of keeps me agile, because you have to react to the glass and move around, and sometimes it's like there's nothing like it, There'll be days when everything's going just perfect, and that's awesome. You feel great, every piece goes in, the punnies come off real nice, it's just one of those good old, and then there's the other side where nothing goes right. And for me, a good start is a good start.